We are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
That was what Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts said last week, which is pretty significant because this man runs the organization spearheading Project 2025, which is a plan, for those who don't know, to dismantle American democracy if Trump is elected again. So he's letting all of us know ahead of time that if we reject a Trump dictatorship, there's going to be violence. Now, even though what he said there is incredibly ominous and chilling, I am still really thankful that he was bold enough to say that with his full chest publicly, because now more people than ever are finding out about Project 2025 thanks to him and other individuals who are trying to sound the alarm about this dangerous plan. And so many people are finding out about this that Trump had to come out and publicly distance himself from Project 2025, writing on Truth Social, quote, "I know nothing about Project 2025. That's horseshit. I have no idea who is behind it. Also horseshit. I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. Anything they do, I wish them luck, but I have nothing to do with them." But wait, if you know nothing about it, how could you possibly know that some of the things in Project 2025 are ridiculous and abysmal? Seems pretty suspicious if you ask me. Now, obviously, Trump is lying. Shocker, I know. In fact, Amor Moussa, director of Biden's Rapid Response, seized on that lie and shared ads run by Trump's super PAC where they share a website promoting Project 2025. One ad even calls it Trump's Project 2025. Additionally, as Judd Legum of Popular Information points out, there's more than 30 people from Trump's administration now directly involved with Project 2025, and he adds 31 of the 38 people involved in Project 2025 came from Trump's administration. Furthermore, Legum adds that Trump adopted 64% of the Heritage Foundation's policy recommendations in his first term. So it's reasonable to think that he's going to do that same thing again. Now, there's so much more information packed into that thread, which I'll link to down below, that directly ties Trump to Project 2025. But in case you're still in denial after reading that and seeing what I just said, here's some of his former administration officials openly discussing Project 2025 explicitly.
So what we're doing with Project 2025 is we're recruiting the MAGA America First Republicans right now so that we can take DC by storm in 2025. We're not going to go in like we did in 2017, where the establishment took over and co-opted much of the personnel of President Trump's administration. We're more prepared this time. We're recruiting grassroots conservatives, and we want all of you, if you want to serve in the next White House, next State Department, next Pentagon, we want you to sign up. Tell your sons, tell your daughters, tell all your friends. It's project2025.org.
So, Johnny, okay, you heard that? If you guys want to serve, you've got to get engaged now. You've got to be involved now, because one of the big parts of this is networking. It's not just training people up, but those networks that we do with grassroots organizations, with other organizations. Walk through, tell me what the plan is.
So we're collecting resumes. We're getting as much information as we can now to save the transition time on the back end. As you know, when a president wins, or president-elect wins, things happen very quickly, and you have a short amount of time to staff an entire administration. It's also looking beyond the 4,000 and what we can do with the bureaucracy itself. So we're thinking of creative policy things as well that will integrate with this.
Well, hold it. When we talk about that, let's talk about schedule. I mean, is there going to be a plan in place to start to take apart the administrative state?
There has to be, and yes, there will be. The next president, if President Trump gets back in there, he needs to reorient the government that's in a way that hasn't been seen since Franklin Roosevelt did it with the New Deal. We need to gut these agencies. We need to start from scratch. We need to make a new government, essentially, because the one that we have now doesn't work for conservatives.
Notice how at the end there, he said that he wants to remake government so it works for conservatives, as opposed to, say, all of us. Now, to be clear, he wasn't misspeaking, and that wasn't some sort of a Freudian slip. Project 2025 explicitly does just that. The plan is to radically transform government so that way it works exclusively for conservatives and nobody else. The goal is to impose their will, Christian nationalism, on all of us, regardless if we like it or not. And according to Kevin Roberts, if we don't like it and we try to fight back or resist in any way, shape, or form, there's going to be violence against us. So what Project 2025 does is it dismantles the administrative state and abolishes agencies that they don't like, such as the Department of Education. And then they have Trump take control of the existing agencies that they don't abolish, direct control, by the way. And then once you've done that and consolidated all of this power into the executive, well, you then have Trump unilaterally enforce Christian nationalist policies, such as nationwide, bans on abortion, porn, bans on gender-affirming care, a ban on gay propaganda like the one that we see in Russia, abolish same-sex marriages, jail teachers who affirm queer kids, an effective ban on queer existence in public after designating gay people and trans people as porn. It is explicitly authoritarian, and Trump's only running away from it now because it's a massive turnoff to most Americans who don't want to live in a Christian theocracy. But in terms of the Heritage Foundation, they don't give a shit if it scares people. In fact, I think that they're enjoying the fact that it scares people. And I say that because Roberts, who is the guy threatening violence, responded to the controversy by doubling down. The Hill reports, quote, "The Heritage Foundation and its president, Kevin Roberts, are facing blowback in the wake of his comment about an ongoing Second American Revolution that will, quote, remain bloodless if the left allows it to be. Heritage and Roberts, though, are standing by the comment, dismissing the criticism as being in bad faith. Quote, Americans in 2024 are in the process of carrying out the Second American Revolution to take power back from the elites and despotic bureaucrats. These patriots are committed to peaceful revolution at the ballot box," Roberts said Wednesday in a post on the social media platform X, continuing to describe the threat he sees and warning that the left may not allow a peaceful transfer of power. Oh, well, that's fucking rich. Now, a couple of hours after Roberts made those comments, well, guess what happened? The official Heritage Foundation Twitter reposted the exact same words, the exact threat that he made, but they tried to change the context to scapegoat the left and make it seem as if they're the ones that are violent. But in the original video, he very clearly says, we're going to impose our will on everyone else. This is a Second American Revolution. And if you don't comply with the new government that we form, well, there's going to be violence. So regardless of how you try to spin this, it is very much an implicit threat of violence from the right, not the left. But it's such a bad look that some Republicans, they see it and they are trying to spin it because nobody wants to embrace that who's currently in government, because obviously this is a threat to their electoral chances, because odds are there are at least some conservatives, people in their base that are like, yeah, I still believe in the Constitution and I believe in freedom and I don't think that we should subject everyone else to our religion. I mean, maybe those people exist, I don't know. But one example is Marco Rubio, who was asked about those very comments, and look at the way that he tried to spin it.
We are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
Are you comfortable with that?
Well, he's not running for president, is he? I mean, our candidate's Donald Trump. I didn't say Donald Trump say that. Donald Trump's running on common sense, on restoring common sense versus the lunacy of the last 4 years and the far left and the shadow government that now is running our country with Joe Biden as its figurehead.
It is truly amazing to hear the words common sense and Trump in the same sentence. But this defense by Rubio, it might be more persuasive if Trump didn't already implement most of the Heritage Foundation's policies when he was elected the first time. But he did. In fact, he enacted a majority of the policies that they recommended. Furthermore, he's made it very clear that he wants to do what they want him to do. He's made it very clear that he has dictatorial ambitions. He tried to overthrow the government when he lost the election in 2020. But I guess we're all just supposed to pretend like Trump didn't do that, and that, he's a perfectly democratic politician, small d democratic politician, who actually cares about the Constitution and isn't just in it for himself. But the surrogates, they're having to do a lot of extra work for Donald Trump, because anyone with a brain and eyes can see that he very much would like to be a dictator, So let's see how they respond when they're asked not about Project 2025 per se, but Trump's dictatorial ambitions, right? Remember, Project 2025 is just a vessel for Trump's dictatorial ambitions. It's a roadmap into how he gets what he wants. But aside from Project 2025, he's been openly saying that he wants to weaponize the Justice Department to go after his political opponents, and he's even raised the specter of killing political opponents. In fact, executing them on live TV for treason. So let's see how his surrogates spin that.
You are saying it's not okay for Joe Biden to weaponize the Justice Department. If it's not okay for Joe Biden to weaponize the Justice Department, as you say, which there's no evidence of that, why is it okay for Donald Trump to do that?
Well, Kristen, first of all, you said that it happens all the time, that the number 3 person in the Department of Justice jumps ship to join a local prosecutor's office to go after the president's political opponent. I don't think that's ever happened in the history of American democracy, and I don't think that we should legitimize it. Now, if Donald Trump's attorney general had his number 2 or his number 3 jump ship to a local prosecutor's office in Ohio or Wisconsin, and that person then went after Donald Trump's political opposition, that's a different conversation.
Senator,
all he's suggesting is that we should investigate credible arguments of wrongdoing. That's all that Donald Trump is saying. That is not a threat to democracy. That's merely reinforcing our system of law and government.
Bottom line, you are okay with Donald Trump appointing a special prosecutor to go after his political enemies, which would include Joe Biden. You're just, to button that up, it sounds like you're saying yes.
In recent weeks, former President Trump on his social media has been amplifying calls, circulating posts, calling for televised military tribunals. That's his phrase that he amplified on his social media for people like former Congresswoman Liz Cheney. You say he's not going to be on a revenge tour, but he's been posting on his social media about not only taking revenge, but having televised military tribunals. And you're someone who has served this country in uniform. Do you agree with his push and amplification of those proposals?
Here's what I know. I know we're not going to have televised tribunal trials of Liz Cheney or anybody else.
Oh, well, thank God. Thank you, Lindsay. I feel so much better. By the way, it kind of sounds like he's saying that there's still going to be executions via military tribunal, just that they won't be televised. But to be clear, he's denying that that's going to happen. Now, do I know for certain that Trump is going to hold military tribunals? He's probably not going to do that, if I had to guess, right? Having said that, though, there are other things that he can do to consolidate power and be effectively a dictator, rule unilaterally, ignoring Congress, ignoring anyone who is disloyal to him, and he wants to go after his political opponent. So you don't have to take it to the extreme for it to be bad. It could still be really bad even if the worst case scenario doesn't come to fruition. But I mean, if Trump really doesn't want to go after his political opponents like Liz Cheney to the point where he's holding a military tribunal, trying them for treason and executing them if found guilty, well, you have to ask yourself this question as well. Why would he, somebody who wants to be commander-in-chief, who has the power to declare martial law, share posts calling for military tribunals? If he didn't want us to think that, why would he share that, right? It's almost like he's trying to tell us, hey, I kind of want to be a dictator. He's not saying it explicitly, except for he'll be a dictator for a day, but he's trying to like send us some warning signs, but we're supposed to pretend like, no, this is completely normal for somebody who wants to be president. Also, is it not even more conspicuous that he started sharing those calls for military tribunals after the Supreme Court said that he has the power to assassinate political rivals with SEAL Team 6? I mean, are we supposed to pretend like this is all just a coincidence and he's making these posts in a vacuum? Especially after January 6th, when he showed that he is in support of violence to get what he wants? Again, we don't know the extent to which Trump is going to rule like a madman, but we know he's going to rule like a madman because he is a madman. It's just a matter of how far is he willing to take it. Does he do 50% of Project 2025, 90% of Project 2025? We don't know. But what we do know is that this man wants to be a fucking dictator. And if you deny that, I think you're just naive at this point. Now, all of this would arguably be less concerning if Trump were just an anomaly, right? And most Republicans weren't also moving further and further to the right into authoritarian territory. But that's not the case, and Trump isn't an anomaly. So here's what Republican gubernatorial nominee in North Carolina, Mark Robertson, said recently.
You know, it was a time when we used to meet evil on the battlefield, and guess what we did to it? We killed it. We didn't quibble about it. We didn't argue about it. We didn't fight about it. We killed it. When the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, what do? We flew to Japan. And we killed the Japanese Army and Navy. We didn't even quibble about it. I didn't start this fight, you did. You wanted to be left alone, you should have left me alone. We didn't argue and capitulate and talk about, well, maybe we shouldn't fight the Nazis that hard. No, they're bad. Kill them. Some liberal somewhere is going to say that sounds awful. Too bad. Get mad at me if you want to. Some folks need killing. It's time for somebody to say it. It's not a matter of vengeance. It's not a matter of being mean or spiteful. It's a matter of necessity. We have wicked people doing wicked things, torturing and murdering and raping. It's time to call out those guys in green and go have them handled. Or those boys in blue and have them go handle it. We need to start handling our business again because, guys, what I said at the beginning about you getting in your cars, listening to your radio, putting on what you want to put on, and saying what you want to put on, keep thinking about it. Don't you feel it slipping away? Don't you feel it slipping away? The further away we get from the concept of 1776 and why we declared our independence and how we declared our independence, the further we start sliding into making 1776 a distant memory.
This guy was endorsed by Donald Trump, and I promise you, it's not the first fucked up thing that he said. Now, to be clear, he's making the case for extrajudicial murders by using extreme examples like Pearl Harbor and Nazis to get you to accept the premise that murder can be justified for purposes of self-defense, right? But then he starts to kind of move the goalpost a little bit. He starts talking, longer and says some folks just need killing. And then starts by giving you an example of people doing wicked things like torture, murder, and rape. But what about other wicked things? Because a lot of things can be wicked. What about treason? So, let's say Mark's governor, Trump is the president, and he actually does say, I think we should try Liz Cheney in a military tribunal for treason and execute her if found guilty. Ask yourself, after hearing what you just heard, do you think that Mark Robinson would object to that? Of course he would not. He would probably enthusiastically support it. Furthermore, would Mark Robinson want to execute LGBTQ plus people? People who he views as groomers? Or leftists who he views as Antifa or communists? Because in his eyes, those folks are probably wicked as well. I mean, you have to understand how they're still trying to hide the ball to an extent, but the mask is very quickly slipping. And the point is, Project 2025's plan to end democracy exists in this context, right? It doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists in an era where right-wing stochastic terrorism and violence from the right is on the rise. So when the president of an organization leading the effort to turn America into a dictatorship says that this new revolution that we don't consent to will only be bloodless if the left allows it to be, I mean, that's a fucking threat. And we need to take it as a threat. So in conclusion, don't let Donald Trump or his cronies gaslight you. They want a dictatorship and they're willing to resort to violence to make that a reality. When people tell you who they are, you need to believe them. They're telling you who they are right now. And if we don't believe them, if we don't take them seriously, we do so at our own peril.
Do yourself a favor and click the join button on YouTube to become a member. Because Mike's doing a great job. Getting to watch his videos before everyone else is tremendous. Many people are saying this. Join today, folks. You won't regret it.